Oh, there's a big yawn from the executive producer, Huck L. Berry. Huck's looking all pretty today, huh? Yeah, you're a good girl. Oh, yeah. Oh, the princess, yeah. She loves scratching under her neck, under her chin. Really, any place. Like right there, she likes that. Oh, keep that up, Dad. Keep that up. Yeah. What a good girl you are. He's a good girl. She gives me that yawn. I'm not sure what that really means, but friends, I hope you've watched that movie right there. Missing 411 National Parks, Washington State. It's our latest movie. It's gotten some really good feedback. You can watch it over on Amazon. Please do it. It'll help us. And thank you for being here. I hope you all got a chance to watch the video right before this. It was a casual conversation between myself and Joe Hauser, Montana Vortex. And I'd never lie to you guys. I've been to the Vortex way more than 100 times. And something unusual has happened there every time. The best example. Joe said, why didn't you say that? I will. There's a spot where you can sit in a chair and you can meditate. And it was a couple years after Ben passed away. And I had gone over there probably 20 times and meditated and talked to him and said my piece and, you know, said what a dad would say to their son. And I was in there for maybe 20, 25 minutes in this chair. And I said, you know, if you could just give me some indicator that you're listening, I'd be grateful. I said, amen, got up. And about 20 feet from me, first of all, I'm the only one back there. There's nobody there. Completely quiet, no wind. Beautiful day. It was the early fall after the Vortex had closed. 20 feet from me, there's this giant 4 or 5 foot chime that hangs in this tree. And right after I got up, bang, 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 this chime starts going off. I looked right at it and I thought, there's got to be a squirrel that fell on that. No squirrel. Nothing on the ground under it. Kind of went on like that for a couple minutes. Unnaturally. I said, thank you. I heard it. I saw it. Thank you. And a while ago, I got introduced to a psychic out of Alberta, pretty famous lady. And she told me that she had been to the Vortex. And she said, Dave, if you get a chance, go sit in that chair. I know everyone says, well, we can be anywhere and we could talk to the spirits and we can talk to God and pray. And Patricia said to me many years ago that that spot is like a pipeline. And I gotta say, I think she's right. For what it's worth, one of the hundreds, if not thousands, of stories that come out of the Vortex. Yeah. So in the last couple days, there's been some interesting things happen related to our national parks. And I thought I'd tell you a couple of stories that are just unbelievable. So this one came out of Great Smoky Mountain National Park, a place I have been 30 times in the last 15 years or more. And it's because that's where Scott Hamilton lived, right outside the park. And this says, I read this headline, I couldn't believe it. Dozens of black vultures illegally dumped in Great Smoky Park. What? Great Smoky Mountains National Park is searching for a suspect after 33 black vultures were dumped on the side of the road on Foothills Parkway West. The birds were discovered on April 6th around noon by park rangers. Black vultures are federally protected species under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, and it is illegal to harm or kill them without a permit from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Dumping or anything in a national park is illegal. The park is requesting that the public contact National Park Service investigators with any relevant information. They are especially interested in hearing from park visitors that may have been in the area of the Foothills Parkway between Chilliwack and Walland on April 6th. Anyone offering information can choose to keep their identity private. I got a question. Who's collecting these? How do you keep them? And what's the point? First of all, you must have some really big property for nobody else to see this, because people would figure it out. 33 black vultures? And then what are you feeding them? You must drive around and look for roadkill all day. That's a bizarre story. I'm sorry. But even the more bizarre one. So everyone knows I lived in the Bay Area for a majority of my life, decades and decades. And if you have never been to Alcatraz, right off San Francisco, that island, you need to go. You will never forget it. They call it the Rock for a reason. It's a giant rock in the middle of the ocean. And on it, they built a federal prison. And there's still a lot on that island to see that's left over that is fascinating. Fascinating. But what you need to do is you first need to watch the Dirty Harry movies by Clint Eastwood, because a couple of those were filmed on Alcatraz. And they have some beautiful scenery of the city. So here's the story. San Francisco Associated Press. A lone coyote stunned biologists and others when it paddled its way to remote Alcatraz Island earlier this year. A former federal prison in San Francisco Bay, surrounded by swift, choppy waters, notorious for thwarting prisoner escapes. At the time, biologists guessed the coyote swam from San Francisco, which is a little over a mile from the fortress. But as it turns out, the male coyote actually made it an even longer swim from nearby Angel Island, 2 miles away. Quote, our working assumption was that the coyote made the swim from San Francisco because it is significantly shorter distance. We couldn't help being impressed by his accomplishment in making it to Alcatraz, the National Park Service wildlife ecologist Bill Merkel said in a news release. Coyotes are known to be resilient and adaptable. Yeah, I guess so. And he certainly demonstrated those qualities, he said. Camilla Fox, founder and executive director of nonprofit Project Coyote, said the coyote likely departed its home base in search of a mate or new territory to defend. She said coyotes, like wolves, do swim, although it's incredibly rare for humans to spot one doing so. We have never, ever heard such a story of a coyote making such a long journey in pretty challenging ocean current, she said. No, that's not pretty challenging current, folks. That's really strong current right there. Video from early January shows the coyote, paddling in the chilly San Francisco Bay and then struggling to get onto the rocky island. It was followed by a January 24th visitor sighting and photographs by Rebecca Hewson, who was in town for a cousin's wedding. She and her family were surprised to spot the coyote on their morning tour of the island. Quote, he looked like a drowned rat when he ended up on the island. When we saw him, he looked healthy and so beautiful. He looked like he had been eating well, she told the Associated Press. Biologists found fresh coyote tracks and scat when they sent to the University of California, Davis for DNA analysis. Officials were stunned to learn the swimmer was part of the coyote population on Angel Island. The Park Service was prepared to capture and relocate the coyote because of Alcatraz's role as a seabird nesting habitat, which is why it was eating really good. But he has never been seen again, spotted or caught on recording devices. There is no evidence that a coyote is still on the island. Alcatraz Island became a federal prison in the 30s, and it was designed to house the worst criminals, but it closed in the 60s because of remoteness made it costly to operate. Still, 36 men attempted 14 separate escapes from Alcatraz. Nearly all were caught or didn't survive the cold, swift current. In 73, the island reopened as a park. Angel Island is a state park that once served as a processing and detention center for the Chinese and unwanted immigrants who were kept for a couple days to months, even as long as 2 years. It wasn't easy for coyotes to colonize Angel Island, but they persevered. Yeah. Now, what you don't probably know is that water in January off of Alcatraz, it's somewhere between 48 and 52 degrees. You talk about cold. I've dove in that water just outside on the Pacific Ocean. It is freezing. And I was wearing a 1/4-inch suit, a Farmer John outfit, gloves, hoodie, everything you can imagine. I was still freezing. I've done that 20 times probably. It's horrendously cold. How that coyote made it and didn't get hypothermia itself is amazing. That's one resilient coyote. So, anyhow, go visit Alcatraz. I'll guarantee that will be one of the highlights of your trip to the Pacific Coast. Seriously. Now, the case today, recent case, Canadian case. Denise Williams, 62, missing April 15th this year, 2026. She was going to Cape Breton National Park in Nova Scotia. Where is that, Dave? Yeah, well, good question. So, there's our state, Maine. Here's their state, Canada. There's New Brunswick. There's Nova Scotia. Now, do you watch the show Oak Island? You know, where the guys are trying to find the treasure? That's Oak Island right there. Here's where she was, up here. It is a beautiful sight up there. Lots of water, rough coast. So it's called Cape Breton National Park. Actually, it has a longer name. Cape Breton Highlands National Park. She was traveling alone. She was from Victoria, Australia, kind of the southeast part of the country. Cape Breton, as I showed you, is in the far northeast end of Nova Scotia. The park is a place that, here was the description by some travelers, sparks the soul of the traveler who love raw landscapes, coastal serenity, and adventure off the beaten path. Whether hiking a misty ridgeline or stargazing by the ocean, or even road tripping, this is a Canadian treasure. Now, one thing that this brought up and I thought about, and I said, you know, I've never really talked about this, but I should. Go out, if you're going to go camping, and buy a cheap telescope. Why? Because when you're out there camping, all of the light from the surrounding towns that you're normally around all the time isn't going to be there. And it's going to be real dark. And you can see stars. Yeah, they all know you're there, Huck. You can see the stars that you normally can't. And even a cheap telescope is fun to play with at night when you're camping. You don't have to spend a lot of money. But what's going to happen is that you're going to really learn to like it, and you'll get a better and better and better telescope. But that area out there in Cape Breton where she was at, stargazing at night would be epic. Now, there's 26 different trails in the park. Low difficulty to extreme difficulty. It was established in 1936. It has 8 campgrounds, and the highest point is 535 feet. It's 948 square kilometers in size. It has a rugged coastline, kind of like California does. Diverse landscape, and the park, I admire this. So you don't get hurt and you don't slip. A lot of the park has boardwalks for the trails. Great idea. I admire that a lot. Now, how do you get there? You fly into Halifax, and then you go to Oak Island to visit. Oh, who would go to Halifax and not visit Oak Island? Come on. I'm a fan, what can I say? And you drive north from Halifax, and you just keep going north, and it's the farthest northern point in that part of the world, in Nova Scotia. Now, Denise, from Southeast Australia, on a trip going through the eastern Canadian provinces on an adventure vacation. This is how it was described by her family to the consular office, to the Canadian police. So, this is interesting. A lot of people don't feel comfortable directly calling the police, or they aren't even sure in a country who to call the police. So if you, being in the United States, let's say, have relatives visiting Greece, and you don't hear from them, and you're worried about them, and they don't make the flight home, you can call the United States Consular's office in Athens, and they are your representative in that country to get you help. Oh yes, and they will help. And if that doesn't help, then you call your congressman and you demand assistance, and they will break down the doors for you. A lot of people don't know that your congressman is your congressional help, and don't be afraid about calling them. So she's taken this tour of the eastern Canadian provinces, and she had regularly communicated with her family by cell phone. Now, that area that she went to out on Cape Breton has intermittent cell service at best. Well, on April 15th, she told the family she's going to be visiting this small coastal fishing city called Cheticamp. And it's very small, and it's right next to the national park. I looked on a map, right there, right on the northern edge of the national park. So she went to visit, and there's no doubt that the national park is a huge presence in that little city. She sees all the advertising, and she says, well, I'm going to drive 1.5 miles to the visitor center for Acadia and go see what it's like. Everybody would. Well, the only thing the family knew is that she was at this city called Cheticamp. That's all. And they last talked to her on April 15th. Take a deep breath. April 28th. The family had continually tried to call her without success. They contacted the Australian government, who contacted their consular's office in Nova Scotia, who contacted the police. The last place that they knew she was at was Cheticamp, and they went there, and they found out that her rental car was a Nissan Sentra, and they looked through that city for it. Police are used to doing this, so not outside their realm. So they don't find it in the city. They start moving outwards. And, like I said, about 1.5 miles, 2 miles outside the city is the Acadia Visitor Center. One of the first things you see when you go into the national park. They start searching that parking lot. What do they find? They find her car. They go inside the visitor center. They talk to the parks people. Have you seen her in the last few days? No. Well, it's been the 28th now. That's 13 days after she parked her car there, probably. That's a long time, folks. Really long time. Now, I'm not trying to make the family feel bad, but I think it's a learning moment. When your family member tells you that they're visiting a location and they'll call you tomorrow or they'll call you in 2 days and they don't, you are their lifeline. You need to call that location where they are at right then and there and say, hey, I have a family member missing. It's better to be safe than 13 days late. So the Nova Scotia police go in and question the staff of the visitor center. They don't remember much. And a decision is made by the rescuers, search and rescue team, that they'd have to search the adjacent Acadia Trail. Now that trail is a 5-mile loop along the coast and through the mountains. Moderate difficulty. Temps in the area at that time were between 0 degrees and 10 degrees with snow at the higher elevations still. Now, the Australian Consular Service was still being the intermediary between the family and the police. First thing searchers did, which is what I would have done, is they send a couple people out, the healthiest ones, to almost run that trail to see if anybody's on it or anybody's laying off the side of the trail. Not to go off the trail, just run it, look, see, come back and report. They did that. She wasn't on the trail. She wasn't anywhere in view of the trail. Then what you have to do is you have to up the ante a little bit. A full search and rescue call-up was ordered. And then police made an advisory. They said that there are bears in this area, black bears, and that they're coming out of hibernation and to be aware. Here's Denise. They also said be very cognizant of moose because they can be very dangerous. Something I have told you about. I truly believe that the moose are as dangerous as bear. And if you look at the statistics out of the number of people attacked by bear and moose in Alaska, it would prove my point. So search and rescue dispatches 100 ground personnel. It's a good show up. That's a really good show up out there. And they concentrated on the valleys, the ridges, and the coastline. Smart. Because they also put up 2 helicopters. Helicopters can see a lot from the air. Deep down in the valleys, in amongst the rocks on the coastline, may be difficult to see. Police also contacted her cell service and tried to ping her phone. Pinging her phone means if the phone's laying somewhere, they send a message to the phone and it'll show the phone's location. They did that, nothing came back. And they never said if the phone was turned off or it was out of batteries. Oh yeah, you can tell that. Some people don't know that. So, the Department of Natural Resources for Nova Scotia dispatched 2 of their helicopters to search this area. Now, realistically, maybe she's not in the park. Maybe she walked outside the park. It's always happened. I don't know her physical ability. The police would have had to find that out from family members. They fill out a sheet explaining how far they think she could walk, how healthy she was she taking medication, etc. Now, multiple canine teams were dispatched. Now, they were lucky because they had the car. They would have opened the car, they would have put the dog in the car to get the scent. And from that point on, the dog searches. 13 days afterwards, it's possible, but that's a long time for a dog to be on it. Rescue Association from Parks Canada came, and they also dispatched an interesting group in my mind, a special operations group. And the more I looked at the terrain, the more I understood, what they're doing is they're rappelling down into some areas of cliffs and really steep valleys that a normal search and rescue person couldn't get into, but they could. thinking that maybe she fell in. Well, they searched all those areas. They didn't find anything. Then the search and rescue worker was interviewed by a reporter, and they were asking them, the search and rescue person was sent out to just say, oh, this is the areas that we searched. Not to take specific questions. Because he said something that most people don't know. He said that the search and rescue people in Nova Scotia cannot talk about what we did or didn't find inside the park. And why is that? Because they're on an agreement that they can't. A non-disclosure agreement. So the police were notified November 28th in Canada. May 3rd, they advised that the search and rescue is over. The only thing they did say was that there was no evidence of animal predation, which is good. But ending the search is not good for the family in Australia. Now, the parks did put out something interesting. They put out a history of an issue that happened in the park in 2009. Not sure why they put that out. But a girl named Taylor Mitchell, 19 years old, she was a folk singer hiking in the park. This is a rare one. She got attacked by a pack of coyotes. She got seriously injured and was able to get a call out to police. They responded and they transported her, and she died of her injuries. Now, this is a case again of a lone female with no defense mechanism. Defense mechanism? What do you mean, Dave? Well, bear spray has been known to work against other animals. Defense mechanism, a firearm. Well, that's not going to work in Canada, is it? But a loud maker, like I showed you in the previous video, animals are mostly afraid of loud noises. Now, my spiel that you need to hear, because we're entering park season, national parks are not Disneyland. Pay attention. Parents, pay attention. There are deadly animals in most parks. Did you catch that? Most parks in the U.S., a vast majority of them, have deadly animals in them. Oh, Dave, why do you need to scare people? Be aware. Deadly animals? Mountain lions, cougars, bears, snakes, coyotes, moose. Oh yeah, moose have killed people. And bobcats. Do you know bobcats have attacked people? Yeah. You are responsible for your own safety, nobody else. Now, that search for Denise probably cost Parks Canada way over $100,000. Now, that's not saying they shouldn't have done it. Oh, they should. Oh, they should. Now, Denise could have mitigated this if she was carrying a personal locator beacon, probably, or a sat phone. A sat phone makes a call from the phone to a satellite. It doesn't work off of cell towers. Also, there's devices, little square ones about this size, that you can put on your shoulder or on your backpack. You turn them on, and they will transmit your location to any computer in the world off a satellite. You can get these devices at REI as an example. And that would have helped in this case because Denise's relatives would have known her last location. I'm just saying. There's also a new device that I just saw within the last month. It's an air deployment device. It's about this big. Fits in your backpack, just a couple pounds. You open it, and there's a helium device inside that loads a balloon that will shoot, the balloon's about this big, that shoots straight up. It's bright orange, and it's got a flashing light inside for 36 hours. It'll go straight up 150 feet. Brilliant. Brilliant. I've got to get me one. When you go into a new site, like Denise did, and I'm hoping she did this, walk in and talk to the rangers at the visitor center. Understand what local hikes are available. Pick one that matches your ability. Ask if there's any dangerous wildlife reported in the area. If they recommend you take bear spray, you better take it. If they recommend extra water because it's a hot, long trail, take it. And leave a message with your friends and relatives about where you were last going. Denise didn't do that in this case. Denise last spoke to her family April 15th and was reported missing on April 28th. Search and rescue ended May 3rd. Waiting that long is far, far, far too long, folks. And I'm not pointing fingers at the family. This is an educational moment. We've got to learn by our mistakes. I thank you guys for being here. Kindness is key. Kindness is king. I'm going to go to the store later today. I'm going to ask the clerk how they're doing. I'm going to smile at them. I'm going to say, hey, I appreciate your help on this. Have a great day. And I'm going to look right in their eye. And most of the time when I do that, I get a smile back, which is all I want. Be safe. Paulides out.